Hey everyone, Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton here with a special update on today's awful attempted assassination on President Trump that not only led to his near death and injury, but to the death of an innocent Trump supporter there in the stands who just came out to watch a person he supports talk about politics. Just so terrible. And others evidently were injured. And so, as I say in our statement on behalf of Judicial Watch, every Judicial Watch supporter, every patriotic American is praying for President Trump, his family, his staff, uh, the family and friends of the poor guy murdered, the poor person murdered, those injured, and of course, all the victims up there in Butler County who were traumatized by this violent attack on President Trump and his supporters. Look, the radical left was attempted to mass murder Republican congressmen, as well as Justice Kavanaugh and his family, and recently Democratic Party leaders through unhinged rhetoric, false allegations of misconduct, proposed legislation, yes, legislation, and sham prosecutions have increased the risk of assassination of President Trump, as well as violence against his supporters. And you can be assured, and every American can be assured, that Judicial Watch will initiate and has already initiated an independent investigation into the assassination attempt on President Trump. There are a lot of questions out there. How it looks like the shooter shot at him from an elevated position. How on earth did a shooter get into a position to be able to shoot at a presidential candidate, former president, under Secret Service protection? And there are reports that there was not sufficient Secret Service protection. Requests for more support have been denied. We'll obviously be investigating that. And, let's go back to see how we got here. The left, as I said, has been demonizing President Trump, and some of that is political rhetoric, and I understand that. Both sides say outrageous things about politicians they don't like. But there's been this level of rhetoric that goes beyond the norm. And indeed, in Congress, and I've talked about this previously because I was worried something like this was going to result from it. You had the Democratic Party leadership propose a piece of legislation that would have denied Secret Service protection to President Trump if he were convicted and jailed. And as I noted at the time, it was obviously intended to get him killed if he was put in jail. And the very notion or very idea of talking about removing Secret Service protection could incite and cause assassination attempts. And I think that's a contributing factor. I do. And on top of everything else, we're in a crisis right now. And people are going to ask questions. I mean, we had this heroic effort by Secret Service agents. I mean, an act of patriotism and selflessness and heroism that we all witnessed today. Those agents rushing in to surround President Trump and protect him with their bodies. Wonderful individual acts of heroism. Secret Service agent had to take the awful step of not that it was a terrible thing to do, it was the right thing to do, had to shoot and kill the man who was trying to kill President Trump. So just tremendous acts of heroics. But you have to take a step back, and there are going to be questions about, generally speaking, how the Secret Service is protecting not only President Trump, but other protectees. And my concern is that politics has come into play for providing protection by the Secret Service. Judicial Watch has exposed the corruption and frankly, the outrageous decision making by the Biden administration to deny Robert Kennedy the Secret Service protection. This man, whose father was assassinated, his uncle was assassinated, the President Kennedy, and he's running for president, and the Secret Service isn't protecting him. Just vile decision making by this administration in that regard. And on top of that, uh, we have the crisis, as I say, of the assassination attempt. But in times of crisis, it's a political crisis. It's a national security crisis. It's destabilizing to the country. It, that's why it's important that the president have the cognitive ability to competently make the decisions necessary to reassure the American people, protect Americans, and do everything necessary to defend President Trump, ensure the federal government is responding appropriately, etc. And I have zero confidence in President Biden's ability to do that, and all caused by, obviously, we've all been having this debate about his cognitive challenges, whether he should run for president again. But in my view, it's about whether he can be president. And I saw his statement today. He said some of the right things, and of course, everyone's going to be saying the right things about denouncing this, and that's good. And I'm sure he's as horrified personally as others are, but he's not reassuring because of his cognitive challenges, what I would call a disability. So I know you're concerned. I'm upset. It's extremely upsetting. I consider President Trump to be a friend of mine. I think of him. I think of his family. I think of the staff around him who are traumatized. Imagine if someone close to you was harmed like this. And I'm sure just as a regular citizen, you're in tears, you're upset about this. So you can be rest assured that Judicial Watch is going to figure out what went on and work to expose and hold accountable any government official and government agency who should have done their job but didn't, and or anyone else who abused their position that may have contributed to this awful moment. So God bless America. God bless President Trump. And I don't care where you stand politically, but I'm glad to see his heroics during this situation, because I talk about how the public needs to be reassured. So when a man is shot and he gets up and does the fist, saying I'm okay, that's heroism, no doubt about it. And I'm sure people who don't like Trump are going to scoff at that comment, but it's true. And Trump, and I have Trump's statement here, and Trump said, "I want to thank the Secret Service and all law enforcement for their rapid response on the shooting that just took place up in Butler. More importantly, I want to extend my condolences to the family of the person at the rally who was killed, and also to the family of another person that was badly injured. It is incredible that such an act can take place in our country. Nothing is known at this time about the shooter, who is now dead. I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear. I knew immediately that something was wrong, and that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and immediately felt the bullet ripping through the skin. Much bleeding took place, so I realized then what was happening. God bless America." So that's the statement from President Trump. He's obviously safe and sound, or at least as safe and sound as one can be after being shot. But pray for America. Pray for your friends and family, because our republic is tottering, and it's been tottering for a variety of reasons. The attacks on Trump, the attacks on the rule of law, and things like this can be very destabilizing. And so Judicial Watch is going to do the heavy lifting to protect the republic in the meantime. And I would encourage you, first thing Monday morning, call Congress. Call them. Say, you need to figure out what the heck's going on. 202-225-3121. 202-225-3121. Speaker Johnson should call the House back into session to deal with this crisis. Because right now they're on their recess, their August recess that has begun in July. How do you like them apples? And that should be a priority for the House, the Senate as well. So we need to get to work to protect this country. So try to have a good weekend. Give say a prayer of thanksgiving that at least President Trump survived, and obviously say prayers for those who were killed and their families and injured. But in the meantime, as citizen activists, you got a lot of work to do, and you can be sure Judicial Watch will do the heavy lifting for you, the American people, the U.S. Constitution, the rule of law, so that we get through this latest crisis as well. Thank you, and I'll be sure to update you as events warrant.